It's a basic principle of journalism. If there's a possible conflict of interest, deal with it early before it causes bigger problems. A year ago, CNN did the exact opposite with anchor Chris Cuomo and his brother Andrew, the governor of New York. Now the network is paying a price. 1 year ago, CNN viewers were treated to an odd spectacle. Chris Cuomo broadcasting from his basement while recovering from COVID, interviewing Andrew Cuomo about his handling of the pandemic.
You and the mayor have been cited in New York for catching on slowly here.
That was a tough question, but there were also moments like this.
Do you think that you are an attractive person now because you're single and ready to mingle?
To say those exchanges have aged poorly is an understatement. When it comes to COVID, Andrew Cuomo has gone from hero to goat.
Vastly undercounting the death toll from nursing homes.
Was it a mistake to put people back in the nursing homes who may have contributed to the spread of the virus?
What's more, the governor is also battling multiple allegations of sexual harassment.
He asked if I had trouble enjoying being with someone.
Now, finally, Chris Cuomo is off the brother beat.
Obviously, I'm aware of what's going on with my brother. And obviously, I cannot cover it because he is my brother.
Which should have been obvious a year ago. What makes this especially awkward, to my mind, is that CNN had a policy on the books that Chris Cuomo didn't cover Andrew Cuomo. And then a year ago, they decided to move away from it. And I can kind of imagine the conversation, Jeff Zucker saying, oh, it'll be amazing. Chris Cuomo's in his basement and his brother's doing this great job with COVID. People are going to love it. And people did love it. The ratings were great. But in retrospect, I'd say it's pretty clear it never should have happened.
It almost sounds as if you have a transcript of what that conversation took place, right? Because that's exactly what it would have sounded like. They have the guidelines in place for a reason. Why is that? Because any politician, no matter how great that politician is, at some point will be caught in some sort of thorny issue. For some, it's pretty, routine, and they work their way through it. For others, it can be quite big, explosive, controversial, and may even end up costing them their jobs. And so it requires journalists, and I've done this. I think all of us have had conversations around ethics, right? The kinds of things you don't do. You have to create that kind of distance, understanding that something like this could happen. Why did so many journalists give it a pass? I think everyone was living in this moment of COVID and all the negative, dark news, and we were just looking for something that was somewhat entertaining, and this fit that.
That's a great point, yeah.
I think, though, you also have to put this in the context of cable news in general and CNN in particular and the traps that are easy to fall into. I mean, Chris Cuomo was very good on TV, and yes, that was entertaining and it was compelling, and his sick bed confessions from his basement were also sort of, but it's all part of this move toward entertainment and also advocacy that I think has given the network a big challenge. It was very, very tempting in the Trump era to also look fairly partisan, to go on attack mode. There's a clip of Chris Cuomo bringing Ted Cruz on, and regardless of what you think of Ted Cruz, Chris Cuomo didn't let him get a sentence in edgewise and made it look like Ted Cruz had the moral high ground by the end of it. And that's going to be, there's an overcorrection that happened and I think needs to come back in this era.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like this was always stupid. Chris Cuomo should have known better. CNN should have known better. I found watching it really uncomfortable, even at the time. Like, I know it rated well, but their, bro vibe was really, I thought, uncomfortable. And, to me, the bigger issue is, I'm sure CNN regrets it, and they realize they made a mistake. You're absolutely right. These rules are in place for a reason. But, the issue is they are going to have to deal with the fact now that it's not just that they let that happen, but that they have to almost be more aggressive in the coverage, right? So it's backfired for Cuomo in that way as well. I mean, he is facing two very legitimate scandals. The sexual harassment scandal is bad and gets more attention because it's the kind of story, we're paying more attention to now. But lying about the nursing home deaths, that's a really problematic scandal for him, because the reason he got all this attention was that while the national response was so botched, the local response seemed great. And it turns out he was faking the numbers, right? So that is really an issue. And, they gave him an Emmy at the time for those COVID briefings. I mean, people just totally lost a sense of reality during this that, they're going to have to face a little embarrassment over now.
I am maybe not the best person to comment on this because I don't find Chris Cuomo to be watchable, and I find Andrew Cuomo to be arrogant, and I'm not a fan of either of them. And I'm with Susie. I watched some of those early segments when they were joking about basketball, and you've got hands like bananas, and my father liked you best, and all this kind of stuff. I found it to be cringeworthy. I was throwing stuff at the TV because I thought it was a huge conflict of interest. I just did not understand it. And now that stuff is happening, of course, to Andrew, CNN can't cover it. Chris Cuomo can't cover it. And so their viewers lose out, those 9 o'clock viewers, and viewers are leaving. I think part of the reason they did it in the first place because they knew they'd get more viewers, and they did. The question now is, CNN, I think, to their credit, and I think Susie brought this up, and to their credit, the rest of their lineup have gone pretty hard on Andrew Cuomo, and we'll see if they continue to do that. But I don't think they've gone easy on him as a network, and I just don't know what they do now about Chris Cuomo going forward because he can't interview his brother anymore, and they lose that story. It's a story from 9 to 10 o'clock.